And at last, we're live again. Grumpy old sci-fi guys. This is myself and Neil Cook. Say hello, Neil.
Hello, Neil. How you doing?
Yes, good.
Oh, Steve. Sorry.
Yes. Thanks, mate. Yeah, for those who aren't familiar, we're a couple of grumpy old Aussies. I'm rather cheerful for a grumpy old Aussie, so tonight's part of Grumpy Old Aussie and Sci-Fi Guy is being played by Neil. Now, Neil, are you sufficiently grumpy tonight?
I am rather grumpy tonight because A, I'm unemployed. B, I'm having to drink my own beer. And C, I can't think it's gone straight out of my head. Yeah, I'm an old guy.
I can see I think we see your cat in the background. Is that what we see? Just over your,
yes.
over your left.
Oh, yes. That's the girl cat. We had an interloper here this evening. We had somebody else's black cat. Saw something out of the corner of my eye, and next thing I know, there's the two cats on the floor, as cats do, all arched up. And I think, what the fuck?
Yep.
Go and have a look. There's somebody else's black cat in our kitchen.
Oh my goodness! Well, there you go. Well, that's either very lucky or very unlucky, depending on how you view these things. So, I just think, okay, well, look, this cat is bigger than born. It's photobombing you. It's stealing the show, Neil. You're gonna stand for that? It's actually looking directly at the camera. Looking directly at the camera.
Yes, she's glaring at you because you've woken her up.
My cat's around, and I don't know if you've heard the story. I don't know if I've told you this before, but my cat changed from being a boy to a girl.
Yep.
But because we thought she was a boy, and we called her Fred. And then when I went to take him and get desexed, they said we can't castrate him because he's a girl. So
how did you feel?
she just got desexed, and on principle, because she didn't tell us that she was a girl.
Yeah, well,
she's still called Fred. So and she's coping quite well. So tonight we're going to talk about comedy in science fiction, and particularly we're going to talk about movies that have been specifically set up, movies and television shows that have been set up as science fiction comedies. So we're going to watch that. And of course, having sat down with Neil, he then tells me he hasn't seen any of them. So that's great.
No, I've seen Hitchhiker's Guide. I've seen Hitchhiker's Guide.
You've seen Hitchhiker's Guide.
Yeah.
You've seen one version.
Let's face it. And I'm in grumpy mode tonight. But let's face it.
Okay.
Science fiction is a very serious subject.
Yes. So it's not something that should be tampered with or made light of lightly.
Well,
if I can put it that way.
Well, yes. I mean, if you're going to make light of it, then do it properly. That's what I say. Hence hence I'm supporting the BBC.
Okay. Well, let's. I'm going to change my schedule then. We'll talk about. We've mentioned Hitchhikers, so we'll talk about Hitchhikers first to give you something to talk about. So this was the movie that was released in about 2004, I think it was. I can't remember. I did have it on here. So this is the 2005, the Hollywood version. The late Douglas Adams was involved. Who is the creator of Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy, was involved in the script of this movie. You've not seen the movie? You've not seen the Hollywood adaptation, Neil?
Oh yes, yeah. I've seen the Hollywood version.
You've seen the Hollywood one? Yeah,
I've seen the Hollywood one. It didn't do anything for me, I'm afraid. I mean, Zaphod Beeblebrox. No, I mean, Zaphod Beeblebrox has 2 heads and 3 arms. Let's be real.
Yes, that's correct. That's what he's supposed to be, and yeah, they didn't. It doesn't look like that at all. Well, he did have 2 heads. It was just not as imagined, perhaps in the books, the radio series, the computer game, and the original BBC television series, where he actually had 1 head next to the other. So, although in the television series,
rip-off.
Yeah. It's not too. I'm quite fond of the movie version. I think it's an okay tribute to Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy. It's not. There's some really good moments. I mean, the voice of Alan Rickman as Marvin the Paranoid Android really works for me.
Yes.
Um,
I mean,
and
Marvin always
yeah,
works for me. Doesn't matter. It doesn't matter what
yeah, yeah.
incarnation of Marvin it is. Marvin always works for me.
Yeah, I think you and I, being grumpy old sci-fi guys, we would connect and relate to Marvin very much so as
Oh,
being
indeed.
a grumpy persona. Is like if there's a grumpy persona to be aspired after, um, yeah, supposedly, uh, as I think Douglas Adams, the author, because Hitchhiker's Guide started out originally as a radio series in the '70s, and I've got the hang on, I've got it here somewhere. Look, the joys of actually working my office. But this is the original radio series on CD. So this is the first 12 episodes, and this is one of my prized possessions. I actually picked this up in the UK when I was over there I couldn't tell you how long it was. Yeah, just it's £40 in those days, which is quite an investment. So, but it was worth it, definitely worth it. Wasn't widely available in Australia, I don't think, that particular box set of Hitchhiker's Guide radio series. So I love the radio series. Used to listen to it as a kid. Used to be on at lunch times when we were having on Sunday lunch, having a roast dinner, and used to be on the radio in
Yep.
the background. It was fabulous. Loved it. And so that goes back to the late '70s, I think. And then they did the BBC TV series in the early '80s, I think, which is okay, which is pretty good. It was pretty faithful to the story, the original story. You go to look at it now, and the production effects leave a lot to be desired. It's a bit like watching old episodes of Doctor Who. It's of that sort of
I
ilk.
I think that's all part of its charm, though, don't you? I mean, the fact that
Yes.
the Bridge of the Heart of Gold actually looks like what it is. It's a set somewhere.
Yes.
But
Yes.
to me, that's part of the charm.
Oh yeah, and it's it's about good writing and good performance is first and foremost. It's writing is cheaper, and good writing is cheaper, and then and there's a lot of good actors in the UK. So it's finding good actors is not the drama. So you have a good writer, good actor, and you get a good director. You're 3/4 of the way. The special effects and the sets, well, they cost money. So
Well.
just suspend disbelief and just use your imagination.
Yeah,
So
exactly. And besides,
yeah.
Trillian was really, really hot in the BBC.
She's pretty spunky. Tricia McMillan was actually really, really spunky. Although what's her name? Who was Trillian in the movie? Oh, that's terrible. I can't remember her name. And she's got a TV series at the moment. I'm going to try and read the back of the DVD box. Oh dear. No, why don't I just look at IMDb? How about that? What am I here? IMDb. Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy cast list. Because I have my secondary screen here. I use my tablet for this sort of stuff. I've learned these days. Zooey Deschanel.
No, never heard of her.
Yeah. So narrated by Stephen Fry. Stephen Fry is the voice of the book, which is fabulous.
Yes.
Yes. Martin Freeman as Arthur Dent. I think Martin Freeman did quite a good job as Arthur Dent. He sort of captured the essence of Dent. I think so.
Yes.
I think he did. I think that was a good performance.
Yeah.
Yeah. Moss Def as Ford Prefect. Nah, that didn't work for me. Didn't work for me.
No. Ford Prefect had to have attitude, and it didn't have it.
Yeah. The Vogons were nicely depicted in the movie. I thought the Vogons are really, they were just really thoroughly revolting and thoroughly officious and just really, they were just captured perfectly. I thought, and the way they we can't stop. We got to stop. We got to stop chasing now because it's time for tea break, sort of thing. So, but yeah. Look, I think it's. I think Hitchhiker's Guide was basically a comedy first, a comedy set in a science fiction. This is let's do a comedy, and it will be happen to be set in a science fiction setting. It's just the genre that it needed to be. You needed a genre that was just a little bit quirky for him to set it into. So
I mean, it's satire.
As
And
yeah,
at the end of the day, it's satire, and it was just beautifully set.
and if you're a really hardcore science fiction fan, and like you and I are, it's not real great science fiction because it's just not terribly consistent in the way it works from a science fiction point of view in terms of the technology and so forth. But that doesn't matter. That's not what it's about. It's.
But I think where it trips over into the science fiction genre is that you've got this book, and it's been written by somebody in the far future, and it's come back with Ford Prefect, and that's the key to it. Somebody else has been watching all of this time, and then recording all of this stuff. About pan-galactic gargle blasters and the triple-breasted Ford of erotic and six and all the rest of it. So I like that. I really, really like that.
I think it's going to be one of those stories that will keep being told again and again. I think we will see future imaginings of Hitchhiker's Guide. I mean, I think it'd make a great miniseries, to tell the story properly.
Yeah.
A movie's too short. The movie was little more than a homogenized.
Homogenized.
Yeah, a homogenization. An honorific. No, that's the wrong word as well. A tribute. A tribute. The movie was a tribute to the original story, I think, more than it. Look at it that way. But there's some nice things in the movie, and the song, the song at the beginning, "So Long and Thanks for All the Fish," which is "As the Dolphins Leave the Earth." That's nice. That sticks into nice big production number. Who doesn't love a nice big musical production number? There's not enough of it these days in movies. Let's see some Hollywood. Are you listening? More musical numbers, please. And particularly in no, maybe not in science fiction. Don't you'll fuck it up. Don't do that. Okay. That's Hitchhiker's Guide. Let's move along because we have a schedule to keep. I'm going to talk about one of my very favourite science fiction comedy movies. Probably, well, in my opinion, it's the best science fiction comedy that's ever been made, and that is Galaxy Quest. With Tim the Toolman, Tim Allen, Sigourney Weaver, Alan Rickman, really good cast of characters. And it's basically for those who haven't seen it, it's a parody of Star Trek, pretty much. Not just Star Trek movies, but also of the Star Trek cast, because it tells a story of the cast of a TV show that was called Galaxy Quest, and it's supposedly like about 10 years after the TV series was brutally cut short. A common story. It's a common theme in science fiction television drama, and the actors are basically making a buck by doing the convention circuits. So you sort of see them at the beginning of the movie, all sitting around in the dressing room, just getting ready to get out on stage and play the parts of these characters that they last were in film 10 years ago, and Alan Rickman plays this alien Mr. Spock equivalent character, and he just loathes it. He sees himself. He's a serious Shakespearean actor, and this is what he's been reduced to earn a buck, And Tim Allen, of course, he plays the captain, loves it. He thinks it's great, loves the attention, still gets the girls, just he just thinks it's fabulous. Yep, this is how life should be, So yeah, so it's if you haven't seen it, definitely a good movie. I remember seeing it at the cinema when on first release some years back, and I cacked myself. And which for those of us who are not from Australia and do not understand the word cack, so to cack oneself means you shit your pants. So I didn't actually shit my pants, but I literally shit my pants. No, not literally, metaphorically shit my pants in laughter at seeing Galaxy Quest. It was because it was very clever, very funny, and it very much very well parodies Star Trek and the Star Trek television series and the relationships that happened in Star Trek. So, for particularly the original series, because in the original series you've got your three main characters. You've got your Kirk, Spock, and Bones, and then the three main characters. They have the equivalent interaction. Is Tim Allen as Quincy Taggart, Sigourney Weaver as Lieutenant Madison, and you got Dr. Lazarus, who's Alan Rickman, the rubber-headed alien thing. And so you've got a similar sort of dynamic, and they do play on that. And of course, what actually happens is aliens. Okay, spoilers. If you haven't seen this movie by now, this is a spoiler. It's been out for decades. Okay, it's been out for years. So if you look,
and
it's
actually on Channel 10 tonight. If you haven't seen it, I think it's on Channel 10 tonight, and it's probably on immediately after we finish here.
Oh, that's fantastic. Okay, then go watch this. Okay. So anyway, without giving too much away, but what happens is the aliens have been intercepting our television signals and have been watching Galaxy Quest, and they see this, and then this has given them, it's inspired them because they see this peaceful civilization who can defeat enemies and hold their own, and they need help because they're being attacked by another alien race, so they come to Earth to seek the help of Captain Peter Quincy Taggart, Tim Allen. Of course, when they find him, he's dead drunk, so he just thinks they're a bunch of kids dressed up for the convention, and they pick him up in a limo and they take him to their spaceship, and next thing you know, he's on the alien spaceship, and things go from there. So basically, they all will end up in space for real. The crew of this fictional television series having to work in a real spaceship in a real space environment with a real space enemy, and it's a great movie because they come into their own. They come into their own, and they sort of manage to help this poor alien race. So it's really good. So yeah. What else can I say about it? What would you like to know about it, Neil?
Oh, well, I've seen half of it. I think
seen half of it.
Yeah, I came in on the latter half of Galaxy Quest
okay.
at one stage or another. I must admit, I thought Sigourney Weaver. I think around the time I saw it was towards the tail end of the Alien series. And,
yes.
I mean, that's real sci-fi. And here's Sigourney Weaver playing a satirical sci-fi person, and I thought she carried it off remarkably well. And
someone argues she did the same thing.
It is a spoof on Star Trek.
No, she's good because one of the things she says in the movie, because all her job in the original TV series was just to repeat what the computer voice actually said. So when the computer said something, she had to repeat it back to the captain, and she says that's all she does, which is completely limited. There's another scene where Tim Allen gets beamed down to this planet, and he's fighting this alien on this planet, and of course, he takes his shirt off for one reason or another, and Alan Rickman goes, "Oh, I see you managed to lose the shirt again," as Captain Kirk was famous for, and there's perhaps one of the funniest alien sex scenes ever. So, where I can't remember the guys. That's Tony Shalhoub, who's the guy who played engineer Fred Kwan, and he's the guy who was in Monk. If you're familiar with that TV series, Monk, and he falls in love with one of the alien creatures, and they take on human form to interact with us, but that's not their real form. And there's a scene where he and the girl are getting it on, and Sam Rockwell as Guy is looking on, and he looks down and he goes, "Oh no, that's not right," You just sort of wonder what was going on. So it's definitely worth a look. So if you're here in Australia and you got Channel 10 is close by, I'd definitely put it on, watch it. Otherwise, go out and do what I did, and I think this is a bought copy. Yes, it's a legitimate bought copy. Yes, buy Galaxy Quest. It's a really good movie to watch. Let's not dawdle. Let's move along, and let's talk about one of my other favourite science fiction comedies. One of the most bizarre movies I've seen out there. And I love it particularly because they stuck Sarah Jessica Parker's head on the body of a small dog, and that is called Mars Attacks, a Tim Burton movie. So Tim Burton movies, they're going to be a little bit out there. They're going to be a little bit weird, and this one does not disappoint. Everyone's in it. It's Jack Nicholson, Glenn Close, Annette Bening, Pierce Brosnan, Danny DeVito, Michael J. Fox. Miss Force features herself. So did I say that out loud? Yes, I did. A cast of basically so many big Hollywood stars. Tom Jones is in it. Hang on, I'll just go for the cast list on its own. It's spectacular. It's very, 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 very much designed as a parody. So Jack Nicholson, Glenn Close, Annette Bening, Pierce Brosnan, Danny DeVito, Martin Short, Sarah Jessica Parker, Michael J. Fox, Rod Steiger, Tom Jones, Natalie Portman, very young Natalie Portman, Lisa Marie is Lisa Marie Presley, and there's a few others. Very young Jack Black's in it. See full cast.
I think it's one of the flicks where everybody plays a cameo part, isn't it?
Yeah. Paul Winfield, if you remember him from one of the Star Trek movies, he's the one who had the creature in his ear, and then he ends up shooting himself shooting Captain Kirk. Christina Applegate's in it. All sorts of people, Let's go through the cast list. It's a huge cast, and my goodness, Rance Howard, yes, oh my god, it's. Rest of cast alphabetic. Okay, huge cast. But basically, as the title says, Mars Attacks. People from Mars come to Earth. They're in flying saucers, and they look like this guy in a kind of look like a big skull thing with big plastic helmets. They're pretty weird, and they're not very nice to us, and. People think, well, they're coming, and of course, the first encounter with humanity doesn't go down very well. And they say, of course, it's a misunderstanding, and let's try again. And they are coming down to Earth, and then they go into address Congress and to make the grand apology. And in the middle of addressing Congress, the Martian pulls out a ray gun and shoots everyone in Congress. So, and then there's this famous line where Jack Nicholson, of course, plays the president. Then says, well, we want everyone to know that we still have 2 out of 3 of the major arms of government, and that ain't bad. still
inimitable Jack Nicholson style.
That's it, yeah. And he actually plays a couple of characters. As well as playing the president, he also plays a casino owner in Las Vegas. So there's a fair bit of his set in Las Vegas. So, yeah. There's one guy, I can't remember the name, he's a famous boxer who is in Las Vegas. And that's where Tom Jones comes into it, because Tom Jones is singing in Las Vegas, so he gets involved in the end as well. And, I can't remember the name of the boxer. Anyway, so, yeah, it's very much War of the Worlds-ish. So, in the sense of it's as with the War of the Worlds, it's a very simple thing that actually brings the downfall of the Martians, and it's a similar sort of concept here. It's basically a parody remake of Orson Welles, H.G. Wells' War of the Worlds story. So completely silly, not very science fictiony, not in terms of definitely not hard science at all. Very foolishness. But again, it's a great parody of the old 50s sort of science fiction and early Earth invasion movies, with a bit of contemporary politics sort of thrown in. So yeah, it's all good fun. But yeah, as I said, for me, the highlight of the movie is where Sarah Jessica Parker and her dog get kidnapped by the Martians, and they do experiments on her, and they take her head and attach her head to the body of a Chihuahua, and then they attach the Chihuahua's head to her body. So as which is what you do with your Martian, you know. So yeah,
Well,
I
at
think you
least they
should
didn't
watch it,
attack
Neil.
the
It's
force.
well, no, that would have been too obvious, you know. And because Pierce Brosnan is is the scientist, he's the scientific advisor, and he's there smoking a pipe, so he's cool and reserved. And he and Sarah Jessica Parker's characters, you know, they have a bit of a thing for each other. So there's a scene where he's a disembodied head floating in a jar, and she's this head attached to a dog, but completely oblivious to the situation. They're still head over heels for each other. It's just totally absurd. So yeah, Jack Black. I don't know if you're a fan of his, but he dies fairly early in the piece. So just probably not a bad thing in that movie. He's very, very young. He probably should have stayed dead. No, Jack Black did some good stuff. I do like Jack Black. But yeah, it's good. It's good fun movie. You know, I watched it with a friend of mine the other day, and she was most unimpressed with the movie. She just thought it was the most stupid thing that she saw that she'd ever seen. And you know, I was not inclined to correct her or argue with her because it was stupid. But I would argue intentionally so. So yeah.
A lot of these things are. I mean, they're deliberately set out to be stupid. I mean, look at the Scary Movie franchise. I mean, each one gets progressively stupider, but people still watch them.
I think Mars Attack is done with a lot more wit and intelligence than the Scary Movie. You know, they just go for cheap. I'm gonna think about what I'm saying here. Yeah. No, I'm probably digging a hole for myself there that I'll never recover. It is a stupid movie. It really is. Don't look at it all expecting any sort of seriousness. But as a parody, it's a great parody of the genre. I love it. So yeah, let's move along. We've talked about Galaxy Quest. We've talked about Mars Attacks. We've talked about Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy. And what we usually do is we talk about several movies, and we talk about a TV series. So the TV series that fits this genre perfectly is Red Dwarf. So a British TV series, which has been made sporadically over the last 20, 30 years. I think it sort of started in the late 80s, early 90s or so forth. And being the BBC, they didn't make, when they had a budget for, they didn't do what Americans do and make series of 13 or 22 episodes. No, they made 6 episodes per series. So I think we've had, and I think they only got up to season 10 late last year, and yeah, it's one of those. Again, it's a bit like Hitchhiker's Guide, and it's comedy first and foremost. Don't worry too much about the scientific accuracy or the internal consistency or so forth of it all. You know, it's basically a character comedy piece. You know, it's interesting that
that's the science fiction.
But it's just a comedy set in space. It's fish. It's a fish out of water because the main character is Dave Lister, and he's just like a fairly humble technician. And in the very first episode, all the rest of his crew dies except for him because of an accident. They're all exposed to radiation, and he's not exposed to it because he's in stasis because he committed some infraction, and so that was for sentencing. He was put into stasis. So instead of being in stasis for 100 days or whatever it was, I can't remember the exact amount, it ended to be like something like 3 million years. So spaceship woke up 3 million. Yeah, when the radiation levels down, the spaceship woke him up, and because all the rest of the crew had died, and the artificial intelligence named Holly lived on the ship, it decided he needed companionship, and that so gave him Rimmer, which is the holograph of his former roommate, which he completely despised. So, hence, that's how that sort of thing came about. Yeah, the first series was really finding their feet a little bit, and then the second series got much more interesting when the character of Crichton, the android, came along, and it's beautifully played by Robert Llewellyn, and again, that's where you get, and then also you have the cat who had evolved from a race of cats that evolved and developed in the bowels of the spaceship over 3 million years. So he was basically a humanoid descended from a cat who had cat-like fetishes and desires and sort of lusts and everything, and was dressed sharp and snappy, was completely vain, like cats are wont to be, but in a humanoid type form. And so that's basically the setting for the series as it dragged out for, well, I shouldn't say dragged out. There's some really good episodes, but and it sort of, I think it had a run of
time.
Sorry.
It's probably why they only made 6 at a time.
Yeah, I think. Yeah. I think they probably had 6 good stories, at a time, and then they sort of made them, and then they moved on, and and we talked about Hitchhiker's Guide before being sort of low budget special effects and so forth, and certainly the early series, again, the sets were very basic, the special effects were pretty primitive. The original model of the Red Dwarf was actually quite spectacular. I think they put a lot of money into making that model, and that's why the opening titles were there were long sweeping shots over the ship itself, just to make the most of the apparently the original was destroyed accidentally or thrown out or something like that, and they had to recreate it or something. Which is why one of the series there's no Red Dwarf at all. They're all just living on one of the small Starbug spaceships that was from Red Dwarf, and they sort of had this. When they wanted to put them back onto Red Dwarf, they came up with some excuse. I think it was nanites or something that recreated it, and so they went back onto Red Dwarf with all the people that were there when they were around, and as they were before. It's very, very, very contrived, extremely contrived storyline, but it was interesting. It was interesting. But it was the interaction of the character of the Lister character who's from Birmingham, so low status character, but with a bit of street cred, and Rimmer, who from a privileged family but complete underachiever, and never amounted to anything, just could not see that about himself. The cat, who was the cat, and then the android who just Marvin. No, not Marvin. I'm saying Marvin's wrong series. Crichton, who just wanted to appease and make everyone happy, I
think just the name Crichton alone, it's enough to stir anybody's imagination.
Oh no!
As
yes. Yes, well, and Crichton had his fetish for doing domestic duties, for ironing and folding socks and putting them away, that sort of stuff. That was his purpose in life. So as an android, that was he existed to serve. So that was a great characterization, a bit of characterization there. Yeah. So your thoughts on Red Dwarf, Neil? You haven't really grabbed too much of it.
Oh, I haven't seen too much of it. I've seen a couple of episodes, and I must admit I found myself wondering who these characters were, because I didn't start from the beginning. But the android Crichton got me. But the idea of this cat in a human body, I think that's where it lost me. It's just.
And it's one of
if it's a serious subject, let's get on with this.
You have to understand. Well, to understand it all, you have to kind of watch it all from the very beginning.
Yeah.
But the first season and a bit, it doesn't really pick up until the end of the second season. So the first few episodes are a bit of a struggle if you go back and watch them these days. You really go, oh, really?
Yeah.
It's and then it sort of. They find a pace and they get into it. So third, fourth, fifth, sixth seasons are sort of really quite good, and then it's stretched out. So you're only having a season intermittently. So we only had season 10 or season X last year, and of course the characters are 20, 25 years older than when they were originally. So instead of being their guys in their mid-20s, they're turning into grumpy old guys, not unlike ourselves. So still still good performances, still good characterizations, but yeah, again, you're stretching it, you know. Um,
Yeah.
there was talk of doing an American version of Red Dwarf actually years ago, and the only original character from the British series who's going to do it was going to be Robert Llewellyn, who as Crichton was going to be the same, and they're going to recast all the characters as American actors for an American audience. So, but that never got off the ground. That would have been interesting. It's one of those series that I do think it wouldn't surprise me if it gets rebooted. I think there's enough in there to do like a big budget movie, for example, would be a lot of fun. I think, you know, I think there's that potential there. You've
But
got some good characters.
it's probably one of those genre that if you took it out of its Britishness and put it into
Yes.
America, I don't think it'd work.
No, I don't think, and I think that was kind of the experience. I don't think it's sort of. I mean, supposedly around there's a pilot somewhere of the American version. Haven't seen it. Supposedly it's out there somewhere. So I'd be curious to see that. But yeah. So anyway, look, I think we'll probably end up winding up the show a bit sooner than later because.
Well, here's a little snippet. Here's a little snippet. I don't know whether you've
Yes.
been keeping up with the news at all, but yours and my favourite television science fiction series, Babylon 5,
Yes. No.
is apparently to be remade as a movie or perhaps even a trilogy. And this is Michael Straczynski's dream, or has been ever since the B5.
Yes.
And yeah, I noticed it the other day, and I thought, oh, that'll be interesting. But you know, there is a comment in this article I'm looking at here. One wonders how a 100+ hour television program can be condensed into a single film or perhaps a trilogy. Well, yes, good point, excellent point. But then again, the series did branch off into multiple plot lines. So, yeah,
Yes.
actually, it'd be good. It'd be good to see B5. He's looking at casting Bruce Boxleitner and Mira Furlan again,
Yes.
but in different roles, obviously, because they're a whole older.
Yes.
Yeah, no,
I
I thought that was a bit of startling news for the week.
That was great news. My understanding is that he's always wanted to do it, and what's held him back is that Warner Brothers owned the television rights, but John Michael Straczynski has retained the movie rights for himself quite cleverly. Unfortunately, no other studio would want to make a movie without getting the television rights. Now, and Warner Brothers would never give up the TV rights, so no other major studio would make would make a movie. So basically, but he's now got himself he's got JMS Studios, and he's now making TV series and he's involved with other movies and so forth. So he's actually now built up a war chest, if you will, where he's in a position to actually make the movie himself. So I think he plans to write the script for it next year. And when I say when you write the script, I think he knows the story he's going to tell already. I think he just needs to write it out and work it out and turn it into a filmable movie script. This is me reading between the lines, and I think and then he'll give Warner Brothers first option at making the movie, and if they don't come up with the cash and make the movie, he'll make it himself. He'll fund it himself because he's now got the resources to do so because he's got a successful studio happening. So. Good on him, and I think if it was anybody else making the movie, I'd kind of go, yeah. There's been some chat in one of the Facebook groups of Babylon 5 Facebook groups I've been following. They've been discussing who would be the best people to play certain roles, and then who would be the worst people to play certain roles. So that's a bit of interesting discussion. Yeah, so that would be quite interesting. Yeah, I won't go back to it now. I can't remember some of the worst suggestions were just horrific.
Yeah.
But I think the Babylon 5 story is there. It's one of the great. It's a great story. It can be told again and again, and I think it would make a brilliant movie. I'm sure that they could definitely do it as a trilogy. I think it's a 3-part movie. So the first part is basically backstory, beginning of Babylon 5, and introducing all the major races and so forth. The second movie would be the Shadow War, and the third movie would be the Earth Civil War, the liberating Earth from the dictatorship of President Clark and the consequences of that. There's 3 2-hour movies in there quite easily. You could definitely pull 3 movies out of that, you know. And look, there are some people saying, I don't want them to redo it, you know, blah 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 blah. Well, they can't continue with Babylon 5 as it was as another TV series. The time for that is long past. So many of the original cast members have passed on, which is quite sad, really. So, Andreas Kastelas and Richard Biggs and Jeff Conway
If they did reboot B5 as a TV series, they would have to stay true to the original by at least portraying the Narn and the Minbari and what was Londo's race?
The Centauri, yes.
The Centauri. Yeah. I mean,
the Centauri.
Yeah. The real beauty of the Narn and the Centauri, as they were portrayed, was the accents, the language accents. I mean,
yes.
Everyone that played a Centauri had a pseudo-Western European accent, and everyone that played a Narn had I think it was a North Country American type of accent. So as long as they stayed true to that, that's my.
I think so. I think they sort of define that quite well. I reckon that Peter could possibly still play Londo Mollari. I think he was at the time they aged him up to my character. I reckon there's definitely. I reckon he's if there's anyone who's going to come back and play their original role, he's definitely the one. Yeah, definitely. Goodness me.
Bruce Boxlight is getting a bit old by now, isn't
he? Yeah, but the other side, he could definitely play President of Earth at some point. You know, I think that was the story, the thought behind it. Mira Furlan. Well, there's another science fiction series coming up, and she's going to be in it. And I think Patricia Tallman, who plays Lita Alexander, is going to be in it. I can't think of what it's called. Jason Carter's still out there kicking around, and I know Claudia Christian, and a lot of the original cast members are still mates, good mates from what I hear. So it'd be good to see them involved in some. Yeah. So let's play this. Let's this question. Who would play if you were to pick a known actor, who would you get to play the different parts? I mean, who would play Captain Sheridan? Who could play Captain Sheridan?
That's Jake Gyllenhaal, perhaps.
Yeah.
Bruce Boxleitner could perhaps play Sinclair towards the end of his time. Perhaps.
Yeah.
I mean, they have to show Sinclair in there at some point because he's key to the story. But Boxleitner. Who would play Delenn?
There is one I'm thinking of. She was in what's her name? Marion Cotillard. Okay, did a wonderful thing. one of the things I did was I went through one of my favourite movies, which was Inception, which is a great which one of these people would actually fit well as as cast members of Babylon 5. So Marion Cotillard, sort of the French actress, she would make a great Delenn, I think.
Because of the accent.
You know, yes, and she's got that sort of exoticness. She could definitely do it. I'd love to see Joseph Gordon-Levitt in there. I think he's a fabulous actor. He might make a great Garibaldi.
Yeah, absolutely.
He might make a good Mr. Morden. Actually, he might, or Tom Hardy might make a good Mr. Morden. There's a lot of.
I hope it comes off. I really, really do hope it comes off. I mean, and of course, we're all going to be disappointed by it because we're going to compare it to the B5 that we know and love. But I hope it comes off, for JMS' sake, because it's what he wants to do.
Absolutely. I mean, look at it. We're 2014 now, so we're probably 3 years away at least from that movie hitting. So if he writes it next year, it goes into production in 2017. Writes it in 2015, filmed in 2016, post production and released 2017. Best case scenario,
Yeah.
Look, and you know what?
There'll be plenty of hype on it. You watch.
There will be a lot of people who may not have watched much of Babylon 5, but they would know the name. It's a name that's out there. It's and I think the fact that JMS is behind it, he's the only one who can really make it. It's his story. It's his friend that's really.
It's his story. But I mean, you look at when it was on TV here. Before the days of the interwebs and peer-to-peer downloads and all that sort of thing, it was on 11 o'clock at night.
It was ridiculous here in Australia. Yeah, it's 11 o'clock on a Tuesday night or a Thursday night or something stupid. It's crazy.
So, highly likely that there'll be an entire generation or two generations, perhaps, that have no idea what Babylon 5 really is, apart from hearsay.
Well, I've been going through it. I've been watching it. I actually finished watching season 4 this past week, actually, and there's some mind-blowing episodes there where it's the Earth Civil War, and they've the Army of Light, Sheridan's forces are fighting against the army of the dictatorship from Earth, and it's just very, very nicely done, and there's some fantastic sequences. I thought, wouldn't it be awesome to see this filmed in 70mm on a big screen with all the big sound, with all the special effects and sound effects that we could bring to bear these days. It still looks at the first days that particular season. It still looked good. Season 4 looks really quite good on TV still. The earlier series seasons don't show up particularly well on a modern widescreen TV, but season 4 looked pretty good for a DVD release, I thought, and considering it was made in '96, a long time ago now. So let's make it so, just to sort of paraphrase, steal a phrase from another franchise, and and that was one of the questions I saw posted on the Babylon 5 forum. Are you a Babylon 5? Are you a lurker, a trekkie, or a brown coat? And I'm kind of, well, I'm all three. I like Star Trek, I like Babylon 5, and I like Firefly. Why should I have to choose? Why should I have to? I don't understand these people who go, Star Trek is better than Star Wars. Star Wars, but you can have both. You could like both. It's not like.
Well, see, these are the people that dress up in funny costumes and go to conventions.
Yes. Yes.
They
Yeah,
live
we
it.
don't do that. We're way too grumpy for that sort of thing, you know.
Oh,
So,
oh, absolutely. Now,
way,
I value my
way
real world.
too
I am
grumpy.
I am attached to the real world. You know, I value my real world
Mm.
cred, such as it may be.
Yeah. Well, the closest I've got is I've got a Star Trek tie, which is a picture of the four captains of the Enterprise from the TV series, and I've got a Star Wars tie, which has like Death Star and that sort of stuff. That's about as close as I get to dressing up, and
Yep.
I don't think I've worn those ties for ages. I don't think I've worn any tie for quite some time. Actually, come to think of it,
Yeah.
um, yeah. But no, where were we going to say? But yeah, let's see that. Let's hope that that Babylon 5 movie comes about because I think it will be
Mm,
something very special. It's
mm.
got the potential, you know. And look, even if it's got he's in one of those situations, a bit like people making the Marvel comics movies, that sort of stuff, you know. You've got to make it. They got to make it satisfy the comic book fans, and I'm not a comic book fan, so I see these movies and I kind of go, yeah, I don't know what's happening from a comic book perspective, but I enjoyed them as movies, and
Oh, exactly. I mean, they're a bit of fun.
they're a bit of fun, but you know, but they've got to appeal. They've got to have broader appeal as well. So you know,
Yeah.
people who've got to be able to enjoy Iron Man and the Avengers and Guardians of the Galaxy and what's Captain America and whoever
Mm.
else is they're making movies about these days. You know,
Well,
um,
I mean, at the end
apparently,
of the day, when you make a movie, you've got to make dollars, haven't you? That's what it's all about.
yes, yes, it's you've got to have the broader appeal. So like, I'm not a comic book person. I don't read the comic books. I don't need to know the backstory of all the obscure references on all these. You know, if you are great, then it works for you. But that's kind of where JMS is with the Babylon 5 movie. He's got to have
Yeah.
to appeal to the diehards who have been fans of supported the series from the 1990s to those people who were new when you were born. They came out and says, "Oh, there's this new movie. Have you heard about this thing called Babylon 5?" I go, "Yes, I've heard of it." Let me tell you about the story, Jim. We used to have to
Well,
wind up our television with a big crank handle to make it work.
in truth be told, when I first heard about the reimagining of Battlestar Galactica, I thought,
Mm,
oh yeah, oh god, here we go, because it was, it was okay at the time, but when you cast your mind back now, you think,
mm,
oh, camp, 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 and I, you know, the first episode I watched, and here's Starbuck as a woman. Starbuck as a woman,
yes, yes,
but
yes.
if you give these
But
things
it worked.
if you give them a chance, they work. And I tell you what, B5
Yeah.
worked. And B5
Starbuck as a woman.
Battlestar.
Starbuck as a woman worked brilliantly because she's probably arguably a much better Starbuck than the original Starbuck
Oh,
from the original series, you know.
that wouldn't be hard.
And the one thing they had in common was the cigar chomping, you know. They both used to, chew on a cigar, you know.
Yeah.
Look,
And
that's a great example of it's a great example of how to reboot a franchise and do it well, you know. And it looks the people who still have issue with Battlestar Galactica and particularly how it ended, you know, and those who weren't paying attention, and then you had the quasi spiritual ending of the series, and who went, what the hell went on there? Well, you weren't paying attention to the TV series because having rewatched that about 6 months ago, it's pretty clear all the way along that there are pointers to this thing happening, you know. There are pointers to Starbuck being something special, you know, and having a destiny and having a purpose. They say it quite explicitly several times. So for people to go, oh, I didn't expect that to be the ending, well, then you weren't paying attention,
Yeah,
and you
you
were just
weren't
looking
paying attention. That's right. That's exactly
you were
right.
just watching, you were just looking at things look pretty in space and blowing up and all that sort of stuff, you know, and hot guys and girls in beige uniforms. That's and brown uniforms, which, you know, that's all you were doing, you know. And no, there's nothing wrong with that. But, you know, if you've got a mind and you want to think and so it worked on that level and it was there all the way through. That's my rant. Anyway, I think it's time to wrap up. Neil, I think, look, it's good that we've got back on the horse of being grumpy old sci-fi guys. I think we've been sufficiently grumpy tonight. about certain things,
Oh,
but
absolutely.
with a measure of joy and the measure of anticipation of what is to come. And I think we should do
Well,
this again.
one really must have something to look forward to in this grumpy old life, mustn't one?
Yes, absolutely, absolutely. And look, there's actually a couple of decent movies out at the moment at the cinema that I'd love to go see. I want to go see She, which is the latest movie by Luc Besson, who did
Mm.
that other fantastic movie that the name of which escapes me at the moment. That's terrible. Because it's one of my favourite movies. I can't think of its name. Oh, dear. Thank you for IMDb. The Fifth Element, of course. Yeah, so he French director. Yeah, so did The Fifth Element. So Lucy is the latest one with oh, that hot woman. So basically, I don't know if you know the premise of the story, but she's um, basically kidnapped, has drugs sewn inside her, and she's made to be like a human carrier to transport these drugs, and something
Yeah,
happens, and they break,
yeah,
and they leak, and they give her enormous powers. So
yeah.
I haven't seen it. It's supposed to be quite good. It sounds like the sort of film I would be interested, so I'm keen to have a look at some point soon. Plus, there is Guardian of the Galaxy, which is out at the moment. There's the new Planet of the Apes movie, which is Dawn of Planet of the Apes. I can't remember what it was.
Oh, yes.
So I haven't seen that one yet either. So there's actually fair happening in the world of science fiction at the moment. So we should,
I think
um,
She is on this machine behind me. I'm sure it got downloaded, but anyway, I must have a look. Have a
okay.
look.
Yeah, I haven't seen She. She would be good. Yeah, Lucy's the one I'm thinking of. So Lucy's the one I'm thinking of. Yeah, that's the Luc Besson one. That's correct. Yeah,
Oh,
no, she is the one with the phone has a personality, and this guy falls in love with, has a relationship with his phone.
mm,
That would never
yeah.
happen in real life ever. Okay,
Well,
we're coming up to the hour,
with that
so
in mind,
yeah, let's look. We'll call it a night. Good to catch up with you, mate, and we'll catch up again soon. We'll do this again real soon, and I'll organise another show in the not too distant future. And
all
you
right,
never know, I might
sounds
even
good.
see if I can organise a guest to come and join us. Sort of weigh in and sort of be someone less old and less grumpy, just to show our age and grumpiness into sharp relief. I think that would be the
Well,
purpose
someone
of having a
someone who
guest
can
on.
fetch the drinks at least, you know. I mean, I don't know
Well,
about you, but my drink doesn't last
metaphorically.
a full hour.
No, no. Well, mine's gone, so I'm definitely done. So we just have to set yourself up, or install a bar fridge on your desk. Actually,
Yeah.
that's a really good idea. I might just do that. All right, ladies and germs, thank you very much for watching and for pursuing and persisting and staying with us. And we'll see you again really, really soon. You take care of yourselves and have fun. See ya.
Bye.